Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. And I have it on good authority. Sorry, I've just put in contacts. I have it on good authority from Vegas reporter, Wicked Foxy Dragon, that steak prices have gone up by 33% in Nevada, at least in parts of Nevada. When asked what she thinks might be the reason for that, he had a hell of an answer. And so I wanted to start early and just share it. I think that businesses are trying to balance the This is just speculation. We're just chatting as friends, for the record. I'm being overly formal as a joke. But in all seriousness, I think this is an interesting take. I think that businesses are trying to balance the tariff BS and raising costs on all their stuff, even stuff not important. Of course, they could make less profit, so their customers aren't hit so hard. But why would they do that? We all gotta eat. Also, I think farms are getting hit hard with the food stamp program cuts they have to make up for. And then losing migrant workers is making it hard to find laborers, and presumably, therefore, also hard to produce the crops as easily as they did before, making it more expensive for them to produce the crops, for example. And as farmers lose workers and things become less available, demand will be higher than supply, and that means businesses get to raise costs even more. Yeah, that's the cycle we're entering into. It's when progressives, what is in my pocket? A bill I was meant to take care of 2.5 months ago. I've worn this jacket several times since then. I couldn't explain to you why I haven't paid this, but I do now understand why some of these companies are angry with me. On a related note, if you'd like to help the stream, do join the Patreon. It's just $5 a month, and my angry creditors will be grateful. No, but to what Foxy was saying, I think this is what happened. This is what progressives are talking about when they say things are interconnected. It's not hippie talk. It is meant to be dismissed as hippie talk by the people that want you to dismiss it, but that's not what it is. It's an accurate description of the way the economy works. When Foxy says, for example, that there are other costs, like not just the tariffs that are going up in terms of expenses. I want to point out that it could also be tariffs from another company. Like, for example, if you have a farm operation that is producing food, but that farm operation relies on equipment that comes from another country, or relies on repairing equipment with parts that come from another country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can keep giving examples, but that's another place where tariffs could sneak in and raise the costs. But worse than that, as we have seen in the pandemic and the days and years following its official declaration of being over, we are at the mercy of companies that will prey upon our assumptions. So when we think things are going to get more expensive, they do get more expensive simply because the companies have an opportunity to raise those costs and not get blamed simply for being greedy. But that is what they're doing. All of these companies are predatory. And if we know that is how they behave and that behavior is bad, then the answer is regulation. They need to be regulated out of the ability to thieve from us. Stay. If you disagree with me, I've got a solution for you. Call in. If you think I'm wrong, I want to know how I'm wrong, and I'd like you to set me right. So call in, and there's a link pinned in the comments. There's also a link in the description. Either of one of those will take you right chomp, where you can talk with your old pal Jake and let me know how I got it wrong. That is the hope. I'm wrong about an awful lot of things. This isn't a bluff. I want to put this out there. When I ask you to call in, it's not because I think I'm going to curb stomp you in a debate or a whatever. No, no, I stream to progressives primarily, which means my audience tends to be at least as well informed as I am, often better informed, and they're not shy about telling me. Case in point, I'm going to say some things today that a progressive might not enjoy hearing. And again, I stress, I could be wrong. So if I am wrong, I hope that somebody who disagrees will call in and tell me. But that's the premise of the show. I'm hoping that with these things that I talk about, I am set correct by the good old audience of 2025. Sad part is, says Foxy, that little businesses won't be able to survive, and we will be at the mercy of big corporations. Yeah. Yeah, every time there is a big shift like this, the little businesses die off, the big businesses survive, and that is not an accident. Hey, Pinkerbell, good to see you, my friend. Captain Homer putting it very well. Well, first of all, systematic sadism, absolutely. I honestly think there's people in charge that simply enjoy seeing people who are poorer than them suffer. I do think that's just who the elites of our country are. I think they are a vicious people, raised by vicious people, kept separate from any of the consequences of their actions so that they never develop empathy. Empathy is a confusing emotion to them. It's viewed as a weakness by them. Cruelty is viewed as a strength. I think there is a separate culture that has developed within America, and it is a culture for the elites only. I happen to have been a part of class culture, of the higher classes that sneer down at the lower classes. But boy, my old stomping grounds of snootiness are no longer even relevant. Those people now are right here amongst the rest of us. Wasps will get it. But once upon a time, simply knowing which was the correct spoon was enough to get you in the room. And now, not even that. You have to have money and a proven track record of cruelty to other human beings to get a seat at any table where decisions are made. Captain Homer, though, made a great point that I want to focus on. Economics is a weapon. That is true on so many levels. I would argue it is the main weapon. It is the main weapon of countries around the world. And yes, it's been used to attack the poor, sure, but that's only the most obvious. Economics is a weapon. It is the first weapon used by countries when things go wrong. And I encourage countries around the world to use it against the United States right now. Right now, you are setting us up to be enemies for the rest of the century by not fighting us directly. Now, the fault is not yours, rest of the world. I'm just telling you what's happening. And you can do what you will with the information. But if we don't suffer blatant, outwardly expressed, intentional consequences by other countries for our behavior, we will lock into this behavior. You will find allies elsewhere. You will replace what we used to be with other countries. And that might sound good in the immediate because you're sick of dealing with us. Lord knows I understand. If I didn't have to deal with us because I am us, if I didn't have to deal with us anymore, I fucking wouldn't. But economics is a weapon. And if you cut us out from economics, as we're trying to do to you, admittedly, if you cut us out from economics, you will cease having that weapon to deal with us with. That was awkward, but you understand what I'm saying. You will cease having that in your arsenal when it comes to us, and then you'll just have good old-fashioned bullets, and that goes nowhere. Yeah, Tinkerbell. It's almost like everything Republicans want makes the economy worse. For you and me. For you and me. It does not make the economy worse for the ultra-rich. Case in point, all the economic horrors that leftists are predicting around the corner. That, I'm sorry to say it, but tricked Republican voters, let's say, successfully conned Republican voters think won't happen because Trump's in charge. We're not going to crash the economy. Trump's a business guy. All of those things that we're predicting are going to happen. If they do happen, like, for example, the housing market crashing again, if they do happen, the ultra-rich benefit. Because once you pass $1 billion, your wealth is not actually measured in terms of actual dollar bills anymore. Your wealth is now measured in terms of holdings, in terms of what property do you hold, what assets do you have, and what are those valued at. After you break $1 billion, that's how wealth is measured. And I'm not saying that artfully, I mean literally. For example, when Trump's taxes were audited, they were looking at what is the actual value of a property, an apartment he had in New York. What is the actual value of his businesses? Because his wealth is judged based on those holdings. Well, when there's a massive crash in the U.S. economy, as we stated earlier, little businesses die off. Big businesses survive. And it's true. They're not thriving in the moment. They're not posting about record-breaking gains. Instead, what they do, they buy up little things. They buy up the weak. They buy up those that fell. They infest the corpses of once great, proud companies. They take all those assets for cheap, cheap, cheap. Because they know they'll survive the next couple of years. And we'll get another Democrat in office. And the Democrat will fix the economy and get us back into being a regular country. But when they come out of the other side of that, they will hold a lot more property. They will have bought a lot more companies and all their means of production. And all these things that they got on the cheap will suddenly rise in value. So, when Pink says it's almost like everything Republicans want makes the economy worse, that's true for you and me. And it makes the economy much better if you're already a billionaire. Then you get to be a multi-billionaire. And if you don't know the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire, I'll put it like this. 1,000,000 seconds is 11 days. 1,000,000,000 seconds is 37 years. 1,000,000 seconds is 11 days. 1,000,000,000 seconds is 37 years. When you're a billionaire, you're not just a rich person. You are somebody in the United States who has the ability to affect everybody's lives. And the way you get there is by making sure every time you make a decision, it hurts somebody. Yeah. Not to mention, big corporations were able to stock up on supplies before the tariffs, so they don't have to worry about the increase yet. And yet, they're probably going to raise their prices anyway, because they will make a massive amount of profit, because they'll have raised prices off of goods they bought during better times when those goods were cheaper to buy. Lanzetta, great to see you. Appropriate reaction, I would say. Pinkerbell, my concern is that you only gaslight people on their own financial situation to a point before people that are getting screwed, the poor people, they need to stay in power. And when those people feel betrayed, what's going to happen? I mean, look, I don't know what's going to happen, but we can offer them a choice, which is to say progressives. And by the way, I want to bring this up from Captain Homer. Both parties, yes and no. The centrists of both parties, yes. Basically, all Republicans, including everybody who calls himself MAGA, for the most part, yes. I'm sorry to be blunt with you, but they support economic policies that help the rich, hurt everybody else. That's the case. Progressives, I would say, the main thing that defines them is wanting to change this fact about America. I would say that the main thing that makes you a progressive is an economic agenda. And you might have arrived there from some desire for social justice, but it is expressed in terms of policy most commonly as an economic agenda. These are my beliefs so far. Captain Homer, the rulers and their managers, supervisors, and enforcers versus the majority, well put, from the largest entities to the smallest village. Absolutely. How do we sell that to those people? When those people feel betrayed, what's going to happen? How do we sell that to those people? It's a great question. This is my attempt. I think that there is, whether it is an organized conspiracy or not, I think there is let's say a culture that benefits, an online culture that benefits the oligarchy, and I've been part of it. They try to get us to not talk seriously with right wingers. I'm saying us as progressives because I am a progressive, but I don't hate right wing voters. I've been furious with them, but I don't hate them. And I have to accept in my heart that the average right wing voter, not unlike our friend Portable Orange, who once upon a time called himself far right, they are also trying to do good. But they've been lied to, in my opinion, about what the problems are and what solutions have been tried. Because if you ask a right wing voter what a progressive is attempting to do, not what they have done, but what they're trying to do, you will hear something that makes no sense if you're a progressive. When you ask them what have progressives done in the past, you will hear a bunch of actions done by anybody but progressives named, and those actions might not have even been real. But if that's true, if they're so wrong about us, we must acknowledge that we might be wrong about them. Might be. We shouldn't be afraid of that being a possibility. We should be hopeful that that's a possibility. If you're a progressive and you're angry with Republicans, you just hate them, you should be hopeful that you're wrong about them. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Think about black folks and how racist folks almost universally react to meeting a black person. You can look up the stories of people from Tennessee who grew up in a segregated community, and then when they're 30, They actually have their first ever conversation with somebody who's has a little pigmentation. I don't know why it's the stupidest thing in the world to be a big deal, but apparently it's a huge deal. And when they do this, they chat with somebody. Usually what happens is the racism starts to end. But sometimes what happens if they stay racist is they say, "Well, that's one of the good ones." There's of course going to be examples counter to what I believe, but that's, variance. That's just one of the good ones. How many Republicans have you met who you thought, "Oh, well, old Dan is he's got some crazy ideas, but he does have a good heart. He does. He's one of the good ones. The rest of them all evil, but Dan, he's all right. He's one of, let's say there's a handful of good ones. No, we're doing the same thing. And the thing is, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. If they are all, they're all evil. Well, there's 70 million people that voted that way. So either they are all evil or they're not, or we're all being conned and none of us have the right answer, or yada, yada, yada. But regardless, we got to talk. And people who are encouraging us not to talk, people who are trying to stir stuff up, it doesn't need to be stirred. They have an agenda. Or if they don't have an agenda, they're serving an evil agenda. I understand if you don't want to hear like as entertainment from the other side, but it has to happen. And if you want to know how we get them on our side, you have to develop the skills eventually, because I cannot talk to everybody. You, the listener, gentle, dear, wonderful listener, must be able, in 3 short grunts, as they say in politics, to express the viewpoints you have and why you have them, the concerns you have and why you have them, and most importantly, how your plans are going to help the person you're talking to. How will you make life better for them? How do you intend to make their lives better? That's what it comes down to. And all this crap we end up arguing about is designed to go nowhere. Interesting. Foxy Dragon says, "Okay, so the trick to getting them to listen is not to say anything. Be completely neutral. Instead of telling them what is wrong, show them how to find their own information." I do like that. I like that a lot. Lanzetta, I hate to say this, but it has happened. Yeah, and we'll be shocked when one of the good ones gets kidnapped by ICE. I misread your statement. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, we have talked all day and all night and for over the course of years about the flaws we see in their logic. But you know what? I'm seeing less and less value in me talking about them. So let's have them talk. I believe that Foxy Dragon might have been the only one of us that actually made some progress. In my volunteering, I f***ed it so bad. Anyway, Wicked Foxy Dragon, someone to listen to. She says, stay neutral. Be completely neutral. Instead of telling them what is wrong, show them how to find their own information. Captain Homer, textbook propaganda, manufactured consent. Again, people believe far too much. I agree. Well, we're 25 minutes into this thing. What do you say we put up our first topic? What do I even want to talk about? Is it no mercs, police budget? Yeah, let me try to anger some progressives who I love dearly and count myself amongst. Police budget. I sincerely hold this belief. I consider myself a slightly to the left of Mao. But I believe this. We should expand police services, and accordingly, we should expand the police budget. There was $175 billion given to ICE this year to spend over the course of 4 years. That is about, I think it's about 1/4 of the total amount of money spent on policing in the United States uh, over the course of a year. So the amount of money they're getting, whatever 175 divided by 4 is, whatever it is they're getting, equates to about 1/4 of the entirety of the budget for policing this nation of 333 million people. I think we're closer to 340 now, whatever. And Captain Homer brings up the progressive side of things quite well. I would encourage you to call in if you feel like it, but we can do this over text as well. But I'll just state why progressives will be hesitant when I say this. Unlimited resources for the enforcers. They are the tip of the ruling class sphere. Spear. Ugh. Sorry, I said sphere. I think we should give them more money. I think we should, step one, take 100% of the budget away from ICE. That's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. ICE is an incompetent organization. It always has been. It was put in place by George Bush. It's a recent invention, just like the Department of Spacemen or whatever the Trump decided to do is. It only recently started having really anything to do at all. It has been patrolling the borders, but essentially just been a way for over-the-hill dudes going through a midlife crisis who couldn't get into police academy or couldn't get out of police academy to go play cops in the desert. That's what it was for like the first decade of its existence. And then it became this little brown shirt club. But I think we should defund ICE completely because they are useless. Give their old jobs or give their jobs to the old organizations that used to handle it, the National Guard, the local police, etc. And I think we should massively expand police services. Why, as a progressive, do I think we should expand police services? Well, right now, I'd like you to imagine what a fast food worker's attitude is. How does a fast food worker behave? Your stereotypical one. Are they a little bit sullen? Do they not give a about your needs or whatever? Do they get annoyed with you? Are they snippy? A little bit snippy? Is the restaurant they're in filthy? When you go to a fast food place, is there straw wrappers everywhere, ketchup sprayed on the counter that hasn't been cleaned up? It's kind of half dried. It's coagulating, I guess. Smells a little bit. Bathrooms filthy, sticky floors. What's the average fast food worker like? Why are they like that, progressives? Why do they behave that way? These fast food workers. Could it be that they are overworked? Could it be that they are underpaid? Could it be that they are dancing to a capitalist tune and that you are never allowed in the room with the person who you could complain to get faster service, to get a cleaner restaurant, to get this, that, or the other thing? You can maybe call and leave them a message, but that's it. So what are you left to deal with? Just you and the fast food worker, and we keep getting the same interactions over and over and over. Snippy. That's policing. We ask them to do everything that isn't covered. When somebody is freaking out and they are not whatever you would call, they're let's say they're on a spectrum somewhere and they behave in a way that your average person tends not to. I don't want to specify what it is they have because I'm saying this is a hypothetical. Let's just say it's a thing. But they're walking around their backyard with a knife. They took a kitchen knife out and they're wandering around with it. Well, let me tell you something. On my desk. Oops. On my desk, I have multiple combs. I comb my hair not with a comb like this. I comb my hair with a brush. Somewhere within reach of me, I've got a giant, honking, scary looking knife that is, in fact, not a knife. It's a letter opener. In fact, one second. Yeah, right here. This is just a letter opener. I carry it around all the time. I use it to pry things up when I don't want to touch things with my fingies. I use it to spread jam on toast. I love it. It's just a bar of metal. Look, I'm holding it by the it's not sharp. But if you saw me wandering around in somebody's backyard holding this thing, you wouldn't know that I'm turning over rocks looking for something, or you wouldn't know that I'm fucking aerating the lawn or whatever. What if I didn't have the ability to express myself clearly? And you send a cop to go see me. Cop sees guy with a knife in his hand. I see guy coming into the backyard that I'm in. I say, hey, back off. Bang, bang, I'm dead. We should be able to send somebody who is A, not armed, not carrying a firearm, but B, is trained to talk to people, is a counselor, is a social worker, has some emergency powers authorities, but doesn't have the same goal as police. We are sending, as Captain Homer says, let me put this back up. As Captain Homer says, we are sending the descendants of slave patrols, but also the tip of the spear. We're sending the tip of the spear in for every situation. There's a debate to be had amongst progressives. And by the way, if you disagree with me, call in. I would love to talk with you on screen. It'll make a good show, but you don't have to. We're sending the same solution to 1,000 different problems. And then we're angry at the people who are trained to do the one solution for doing the one thing that they're really trained to do. We're angry at these people for not having an impossible skill set. We're sending the same people to investigate murders as we send to arrest drug dealers, as we send to deal with somebody having a mental breakdown, as we send to deal with a wellness check on somebody who hasn't answered their phone in a week, as we send to deal with somebody who just got hit by their spouse, as we send to deal with somebody, you see where this is going. So why do I want to expand police? Well, why do I want to expand the police budget? So we can expand police services. So we can hire people to cover the jobs that police have to cover right now. And why do I want to expand police services? Because police need to be specialized. Laws do need to be enforced. We have a huge law enforcement problem in America. It mostly comes down to the rich do not get arrested, and they should be. But we also need society to have some regulation, some person you can call when things go wrong, and you can trust that by calling them, the situation won't be made worse. They might not be able to fix it, but it won't be made worse. Currently, God help you if you're a black person in an emergency. Can you imagine being a black person and having somebody outside your home with a baseball bat? Would you feel comfortable calling the police? What if the first thing they do is get out of their car and empty their guns into the person with the baseball bat, and you're on the other side of that wall? I mean, you'd probably take the risk and say the person with the bat is more dangerous, but you would have to make that calculation during an emergency. So, yeah, we should expand police services. We should have unarmed officers that you can request For example, I think you should be able to request an unarmed police officer come to your house for a wellness check. I think all road police. I think if you're a police officer who drives around and patrols the roads and looking for people doing traffic violations, I think that should be unarmed. I see no reason to put a pistol in somebody's hand for that. Certainly not a shotgun or an assault rifle. That's crazy. No, they're write traffic tickets. We need people who are good at driving, not good at shooting. And by the way, you can make that part of the training process. Oh, you're a young cop and you need to know how to interact with the public, but we're not quite ready to have you on your own yet. So here's what you do. You go write tickets for a year. You go right now, what we do instead of that is have them work the prisons for a year. That's how they start viewing the public is that's how they develop their skill set as police is they work in prisons as guards right alongside the private security guys, by the way. They work that job. I could at least tell you some expertise in that regard. That's not a group you should that's not a group police should be learning from because they have different goals. I'm not trying to even tease private security people, but on a side note, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but private security, their their goal is to protect their boss. They're not bad people for this. It's just what it is. It's what the job is. Their goal is to protect their employer. That's what makes it private security. So when you have police training alongside private security folks in a prison, they're not learning the right lessons. They have to unlearn a lot of that when they go start being patrolmen. So instead, you could have them learn on the job and the part of the job that should involve no violence. And if it does involve violence, their instructions are to run back to your radio, drive away, and radio in for backup. Or drive to a safe distance. Follow them if you must, but radio it in because you are a rookie and this is just writing tickets. Also, we don't want a gun battle on the highway. It's not worth capturing the person who's shooting at you if to do so, you allow a bunch of civilians to get shot as well. You got to capture them at a different time. So, expanding the police budget so that we can expand police services, so that the police are not exclusively the bullies of society. There should be a division of police that only writes traffic tickets. There should be a division of police that has no arresting authority, does not claim to, they do not carry handcuffs with them, they do not carry mace with them. But they are trained social workers, and they do have the authority to write police reports and to testify in front of a judge as policemen, police officers, whatever. We should be expanding our concept of policing. And frankly, I think in the process of doing so, we can take away funding from the pseudo cops who are of no use to anybody. For example, ICE. That's a disgraceful organization. It is there would be less work in just deleting it and giving their responsibilities to competent human beings than there would be in trying to fix it. So just it's free already. To expand police services and budget would be free. Just take the budget from ICE. Let's see if I have some disagreements. Oh, look at now I've got this is a great opportunity I didn't realize. Apparently I can get cheap viewers on streamboo.com. If I got to remove the space obviously. Wow. That's a real deal. Anybody else disagree with me? Comes down to uncommon sense. It's ridiculous that I have to warn people. It comes down to uncommon sense. Yeah. I was advised to play. I see what you're saying. I was advised to place signs on my home and stickers in my car informing people I have a nonverbal autistic son. Almost in the same manner, one warns people there is a dog on site. It is ridiculous that I have to warn people. And it comes down to uncommon sense. It's ridiculous that you have to warn people, but that's kind of the very point I'm making. Because who do you have to warn? Do you have to warn the person you're shopping next to? No. Who might you be encountering that you have to warn? Well, probably if you get pulled over and there's somebody with a gun that's gonna walk up to your car, that person ought to know. And wouldn't it be just so much better if you knew that the person who's pulling you over is in no circumstances coming to do violence to you? Yeah, exactly. We should be in a better society than we are. Just people should understand, yeah, autism is, like, incredibly common, and sometimes autistic people behave differently than non-autistic people in the same situation, and you just gotta deal with it. Yeah, it doesn't listen or answer. Exactly. And then that gets escalated by a guy with a gun getting more and more annoyed and screaming and yeah. There were live streamers debating the most divisive subjects on YouTube, taking phone calls for many hours. Well, there always are. And it's happening now. That's what I'm doing. But you see the difference in divisiveness. I'm talking to what is likely a group of progressives about a thing progressives have been, the broadly speaking, strongly against for a long, long time. And listen to how civil and decent and constructive the conversation is. Now, we haven't had a lot of disagreement, but there could be. Sir, I mean, I think it's safe to say Captain Homer isn't in favor of this, but we're not. The thing about being a progressive, which I invite all non-progs to take into your hearts and carry with you, even if you don't agree with our policies, we're sincerely trying to help. Captain Homer's trying to help. He's trying to make society better. Foxy's trying to help. Pink's trying to help. Fucking sorry. Sugar DZK is probably not trying to help, but that's a robot. That's not a progressive. Legends of Sean is trying to help. David Martin Graff is trying to help. Look at how much 10-year treasury yield. This is how much this dude is just looking up, trying to find answers, not trying to come up with a way to trick you, but trying to come up with answers. 10-year treasury yields in 1982 were 14.59%. By contrast, in 1992, that return was 7.03%. In 2002, you see, he's trying. There's effort here to make society better. We're not just trying to win a conversation. We are certainly not trying to put anybody down, even though I've been guilty of that in the past. I felt bad about it because I'm a progressive. And y'all make me feel bad for being bad, and you should. Because these are good people and we're trying. So even if you don't agree with our policies, do remind yourself in every conversation you have, what is the point of this conversation? Why am I here? Why am I talking about politics as opposed to video games or movies or cars or sports, whatever you like? Because this is where you help, folks. And if you're not here to help, don't be here, because it's not blood sport. And if you're enjoying it as blood sport, you are part of the problem. The description is a key draw. I am not looking to gather up anybody. Those days are behind me. I don't want to trick somebody into watching this stream. This stream is just a guy in front of some cartoons with a bunch of pals talking about politics. You can see that by flipping through the vertical feed on YouTube, the shorts feed. Some people will come, most will go right past it. I'm good with that, because I don't want to have a conversation for 200 people. I want to talk to one person who disagrees with me and I want to have a sincere conversation. And we will not likely get it at any particular moment, but we will eventually get it. And we will understand these people. Portable Orange right now is my guiding light. That is a man who gave me the most honest interview I have ever had, with a right winger at least. And he's not a right winger. He's not anything, actually, if you were to ask him. But he was once, and he spoke honestly about it. And I want to speak to the portable oranges that I know are out there who currently have sincerely felt beliefs that I think are not accurate. And if they're right, I want to know why I'm wrong. And if they're wrong, I'd like an opportunity to tell them. But we can look at this honestly together. The reference frame. Where'd you come from? I don't see what Prague's. Well, I'm sorry. I missed what we're talking about. Look, if you are enjoying this, I would encourage you to donate. Yeah, sign up for the Patreon. That's what's going to make this show possible for an extended amount of time. It needs to pay my bills. My old goal for YouTube was simply to pay for the cost of doing business. The subscription's necessary, but I want to take a proper whack at this. I wanted to set this up like a business, and I want to finally hire somebody to. Well, I have lots of lofty goals, but first, this just needs to be a stable business, which means I require 300 subscribers at the $5 level on my Patreon. Right now, I am flush with one, and I am hugely delighted by that fact. But I need a hell of a lot more. So please, if you got just a cup of coffee to spare every month, go over to my Patreon and do consider donating to the cause. Ooh, trees require unnecessary work to be portable. Not on a river, my friend. But point still taken. I was under the impression most oranges were portable unless it's still attached to the tree. I see what you're saying. All right, gang, I'm going to take a brief break, possibly update the description to include the Patreon link, which I should have done from the jump. In the meantime, I'm going to leave you with some funky tunes. I'll be back in exactly 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. I'll be back in exactly 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Ah. Yeah, and we're back. I did do it twice. I'm sorry. I initially hit this button, which plays nothing. Oh, I want to talk about missed opportunity from yesterday. Oh, I should have run. Look, I'm fatter than I appear. For some reason, my belly has taken the majority of the junk food that I stuffed into my fat mouth, and just sort of gathered it to the point where I essentially have a beach ball of material to work with from like the nipples down. It's really quite horrific. Anyway, I missed an opportunity yesterday because in the moment, I don't want to say I did poorly necessarily, but I didn't use a thing to the best of my ability, and I regret that. Here's what happened. If this beverage has a very strong ham smell, I'm concerned. Not bad. You really taste the pork. So a person did call in yesterday, and they essentially hit me with the old Baba Booey. They were a Nick Fuentes fan. They called in and they were ranting about the Jews and blah blah blah. You know, this standard crap. I really wish I would have talked to them. I just muted them and then kicked them out. But kind of, or maybe I don't even remember. Oh no, the second dude I definitely just kicked out. But the point being, it was an opportunity to say, mm-hmm, horrible racist stuff. Sure, sure. What? How do you feel about the Charlie Kirk shooting, and that it looks like the person that did it was also a Fuentes fan? Again, we don't know yet, but it looks that way. How do you feel about that? That was an opportunity. And I think it's one we should all take advantage of. Like when these people have been using shocking declarations about race and religion and sexuality and gender and whatever thing they can think of that might get under your skin, my skin, to get us arguing about that. And they've been using that for so long that their ability to bullshit in other ways has severely atrophied. They're really not good at talking about economics. They're really not good at talking about what rights an individual ought to have. They're not good at talking about anything because they've been using these cheat codes for shutting down conversation now for like 20 years. We should take advantage of that. Don't let it affect you. When they look at it for what it is, and that is an act of cowardice. When somebody tosses out a piece of information, not information, but when somebody tosses out a sentence, let's say, that is meant to infuriate you, that is meant to poke at you and try to get you angry. That's because they're panicking. That's because they know they're losing the conversation and you're winning. So the thing to do is not follow them down that dark path, but instead drag them into the light. Make these people have the conversation they are not prepared to have. I didn't show you an example of that yesterday. I should have done that. I will try next time. But next time you see me, not slam the phone on the hook when we're talking to a bigot. Understand that's the reason why. It's because we need to get past this. We need to make them debate about the things that they use racist arguments to try to get out of having to debate. They learned from the worst of the worst how to do the worst things imaginable. Shade Dragon, the right wing has gone so far right, they accidentally made the NRA speak up for trans rights, if only the right to bear arms. Yeah, it's to the point of nonsensical. Has to be a conversation to lose it. And he wasn't there to engage. He was there to get his screen off and try to get your stream reported. I know. The person who shouted N-word on repeat after that couldn't have made it clear. I know. You're right. You are correct. That is what they were trying to do. Still an opportunity for us. In fact, a perfect opportunity to no-sell that shot. That was a public setting. It's digital, but it's still public. The public was invited. And what happened? People who were hopped up on right-wing lunacy tried to get the stream shut down. That's not that far off from people hopped up on right-wing lunacy trying to get a streamer manually shut down. It was a great example and a great opportunity to show the world who we are dealing with. You couldn't talk to him. He talked over you. There was a back and forth. It wasn't much of one, and he was trying to do the thing. He was trying to get us to argue. But consider all this. These folks they're not doing that for no reason. This behavior doesn't exist for no reason. You've seen babies hang out together. Black babies, white babies, Chinese babies, whatever the heck. You've seen them hang out together. They don't separate into racial groups. It's not natural to do that. But this doesn't come from nowhere. So where does it come from? Well, gosh, rich people who don't want to discuss how they got rich immorally. That's where it comes from. Because we will argue about this stuff until we go gray in the hair, which is happening. What little remains. We'll argue about it, and crucially, we'll stop talking to the people who bring it up. It doesn't. We got poisoned not just. So they got poisoned by conservatives. We got poisoned by Democrats. And the way the progressives got poisoned by Democrats is that we see Democrats capitulating. And we mistake then the sincere conversations that must be had with right wingers, with capitulation, with surrender, with compromising fundamental morals which cannot be compromised. We mistake that. And I can't say, yeah, thanks, Obama. I can't say that it's intentional on anybody's part, but it's what's happening. That's what's getting in the way of this. And they're preying on our ability to have empathy. In fact, they require us to have empathy for the people they're attacking, and they require us to have no empathy for them. Empathy doesn't mean you agree with them. Empathy doesn't mean you're, oh, well, I'm going to only look out for their interests. But it's your acknowledgement that they're a human being, that they feel things, that there's more happening than you necessarily are aware of. But forget all that. Forget niceness. I don't give a shit about niceness. I'm sorry. I like niceness, but that's not the point of this. It's because it's ineffective. To cross your hands and triumphantly go, they're just a person we can ignore. Gets you nowhere. The people you'd like to protect, they go on suffering. Now, you don't have to do it. You really don't have to do it. If somebody in your life is saying N-word, 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 that's different. Because you all have to live your lives. You can't shut off the camera and walk away from your life. But when we're in front of a camera, when I'm in front of a camera, and someone like this comes around, I want you to know it is not an insult to you. It's not me abandoning progressive audiences to let them keep talking. I think there is value in letting them keep talking. And I think you will see that nothing makes a better case for our point of view than someone like that choosing to step up and be the representative of the right. Who represented the opposite opinion to free healthcare would be good for the economy? Well, the person that says he hates Jews and loves Nick Fuentes. Doesn't that reflect well on our side of the argument? I think it does. I think, yeah, let the horrible racists be the representative of the economic side of what Republicans are talking about. That could not be better. Shade is right. Emotions. Let's see. A lot of the time, the right does rage bait because it works on them. Much as they love to say the left is emotional, most scholarly studies to the topic determined the right makes decisions mostly from emotions rather than their reason. I think you're spot on, my friend. Spot on. And I think we should take advantage of that. We should take advantage of the fact that they expect us to be emotional and they expect to get a rise out of saying racist things. And what we should do is instead let them have their little tantrum, mute the stuff that requires muting and isn't even a point they're trying to make, but then insist on their worst nightmare. The worst thing you could possibly do to them is leave the mic on, turn it back on, and say, "Now, what was your point regarding finances? What was your point regarding the economy and healthcare? What was your point regarding rhetoric?" And then just watch them have no point. Watch the reality of how they got to the place they are spill out, and that they don't, despite listening to political things all the time, they don't have any idea how any of this works. They don't have any idea of the actual history. They don't have any idea of the actual reality of what people are voting for. The things they will brag about will be bills that Democrats introduced and Republicans voted against, but they didn't have the numbers, so the bill passed anyway. And then the Republican goes back to their home state and brags about the things that Democrats did that they failed to stop Democrats from doing. That's going to be their level of education. And we should expose that. By the way, if you disagree with me, if you think I'm wrong, I invite you to use the link pinned in the description to call in. The letter hack is going to throw down. What? Just made myself a highball. Good to see you, my friend. I've been vertical streaming of late because I believe I can get Republicans calling in. Sorry, I just realized. Here's the plan. If you guys understand me, you know that I constantly try to do this and it never works. What I wanted to have happen is every time I put this up, yeah, this right here, that would mean that when I'm scrubbing through it in the download, I can see immediately where I go to the next question, and I have not once successfully done that. Next question to discuss. We did police budget. Didn't have any arguments there. So let's try no mercs. The US government should not hire mercenaries. What do I mean by mercenaries? Private companies to do government business involving force. So I would go down to as low in terms of legality or in terms of paycheck, let's say, as low as private prisons and private prison guards. This should be entirely the US government's responsibility. We do not need mercenaries who have less training and, more crucially, less obligation to the US government, to US citizenry, who can be hid more easily, who can quit one place, reapply at another, and wind up working ultimately for the US government under what amounts to two identities. No private prisons should exist, but in any prison, there should not be a company that the government hires to provide prison guards. No, no. These should be US government employees. Similarly, overseas, it is ludicrous that we hire mercenary soldiers. We hire mercenaries to go do our dirty work. For example, off the top of the dome, I believe 10,000 US soldiers died during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. 7,000 mercenaries did. Do I have that correct? Let's find out. How many mercenaries died in the Iraq War? 2003. Okay, so we've got two numbers here. Estimates are ranging from 3,500 to 7,500. Let's cut it down and just say 5,000 mercenaries died fighting our wars for us. We are the richest military in the world. We can take responsibility for 100% of our actions, and we are obligated to. When we were in Iraq initially, we were not a wise people. We thought we were, but we weren't. Since then, Ukraine has happened, and we've gotten to see an imperialist invasion from the other side. One of the main ways Russia conducted wars was to have, like, Yevgeny Prigozhin, an oligarch, fund a giant mercenary company of soldiers and go in and do dirty work. By dirty work, I mean break international law. So that Russia can say, now, wait a minute. We didn't break international law. Prigozhin's people broke international law. Wait a minute. In South Africa, we're not working with white supremacist parties. Prigozhin's people are working with white supremacist parties. Okay. So you can do the evil you want to do, but blame it on somebody else. But the thing is, when you blame it on somebody else, they don't even get punished because there's somebody else located in your country and you asked them to do what they did. We had the same thing happening. Eric Prince, he is the brother of Betsy DeVos. He is a billionaire. She's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. They are the ruling class. They are both oligarchs. Eric Prince founded a company called Blackwater. It went on to be called many different things, and the reason it had to be called many different things is they did many different crimes. They created the terrorists of today. Anybody that attacks the US today who's angry with us, there's a good chance that Eric Prince did something on the US's behalf that they're still angry about, and it turned him into a terrorist. That's who Eric Prince is. Villain. Absolute villain. Wannabe soldier. A plastic soldier. He was never one, really. I think he might have had military training, but he was not in combat. Let's see. I think he was in the SEALs, but never saw a mission. But he is a plastic soldier. Okay, yeah. Oh, he was a former U.S. SEAL officer. Good for him. But he was rich when he entered the service, and richer on the other side of it. He did not get to live his soldier fantasies, and so what did he do? Well, he hired a bunch of people to go play commander with, and he went to Iraq and committed murders of civilians, and basically his group, Blackwater, is responsible for the escalating violence in much of the region, including just gunning down civilians. Like there was a crowded road in their way, and they said, forget, and they shot into the crowd to clear the road. He's had to change the name of Blackwater several times and hasn't lost the United States as a client because the U.S. people just have no knowledge of this. So any country that considers itself a moral place, a decent place, must, as a rule, say we're not Carthage. We're not having our wars fought for us by mercenaries. We will do our own dirty work, and we don't do it for profit. It's not a business deal to us. This is life and death. It is above capitalism. No mercenaries, I say, in the United States. Eric Prince has 12 children with 3 different wives. Marty Knudsen says that is insane. Business model, inevitably, I don't think we should have private contractors doing. Nadia, hello. Shade Dragon, I don't think we should have private contractors doing government public service work at all. It makes a nightmare legally as to which laws to use to hold them accountable for their own profit. No. To hold them accountable for. Wait. It makes it a nightmare legally as to which laws to use to hold them accountable when their for-profit business model inevitably fucks over the public. Corporate law tends to be far more lax than laws holding public servants accountable. All right. I slightly disagree with you. Mostly to make the point that you could call in for something like this if you so desired. I slightly disagree with you in this regard. I think the government should hire private industry as a charitable endeavor. So if there's something that we agree can be done for profit, for example, let's just say baking bread. I think it's fine for the government to say, we don't want to have government bread bakers, but we do need bread because there's a homeless crisis in this city, and they're starving, and they need bread. So let's go around to these bread bakers. Let's find 50 of them, offer them $1,000 each for whatever units they provide for that amount, and we give them the business. But then you bring up a great point, which is, what do you do when one of those loaves of bread has a cooked rat in it or some such thing? I think the government must first and foremost take responsibility and compensate appropriately whoever suffered, and then must sue the private company that they're part of, or that they did business with, I should say. But the reason I think this should be possible is because we should have clearly defined issues that private business is allowed to take part in, and clearly defined issues that they are not allowed to take part in. Robert Reich lays out very clearly what we should prevent private industry from taking part in. Anything where the profit motive is less important than the outcome. Or rather, I just butchered what he said. Anything where you're dealing with people's lives, basically. So healthcare, no, it should not be private industry. Prisons, no, it should not be private industry. Emergency services of any kind, no, it should not be private industry. Anything that involves the defense of the country, militaries, basically. These things should not be private. But things that should be, I think it's okay for the government to hire. But I would prefer the government did it as an act of charity. So the government is not seeking profit here. The government is just seeking a happy populace. I have 3 kids by 3 different husbands. Is one of them Eric Prince? In which case I have questions. So I think we're agreeing. Yeah, we mostly are. We pretty much are. That's not a government public service. I'm referring to something where service is the industry. Interesting. So it wouldn't include bakers. Their business is bread, but it should include the person whose job is distributing the bread. Yeah, that's a fair point. And what you touch on is kind of crucial, which is who has the liability. And you're right. There's different rules for profit. And I think by default, whichever way we go, we should go with whatever is stricter for anybody except the customer, basically. Whoever is more of a spoil sport, that's who we should go with. Let's see if we have one more in us. I've yet to come across a right winger. I'm going to try to think up something properly inflammatory. But first, we'll see if this is a good song that I remember or not. I do like that harmonic.
You're still playing with the codeine, never gonna break your head. I'm still trying not to be nice, think twice, everybody's feeling bad.
No.
You've been living on the road, now slow down, everything will be alright. Don't go thinking it's a big deal, unreal, everybody's kissing tonight. Kiss me love.
Yeah, this is more the vibe. Now,
I'ma keep back. I'ma keep back. I'ma be the best that you never had. I'ma keep back. I'ma keep back. I'ma be the best that you never had. I'ma keep back when you fake like that. Head out of the game, I don't play that fact. Would you let me go? No, you never come back. I'ma be the best that you never had. I'ma keep back when you fake like that. Head out of the game, I don't play that fact. Would you let me go? No, you never come back. I'ma be the best that you never had.
I'ma kick back when you fake like that. Head out of the game, I don't play that fact. Would you let me go? No, you never come back. I'ma be the best that you never had. Would you let me go? No, you never come back. I'ma be the best that you never had.
I'ma keep back. I'ma keep back. I'ma be the best that you never had.
If you ever want to be a much humbler person, just go on the internet for about 5 minutes, because I went up in terms of viewership. Yep, there it is. I went up by 6 viewers when it was just a blank screen with music playing, and then I went down as soon as I got back on camera. Woof. That'll humble you. But I don't want to get content brain, because really, I just want to find some folks that disagree. Great point made by Captain Homer earlier. When some complain about the government, are they complaining about corporate power? In an oligarchy, the answer is yes. And that is what we are in. I think it's a great point. I think that's what we should point out as often as we can. The folks you're angry at are the Epstein class. The sort of folks that could afford to be clients of that sick are the folks we are angry with. Marty Knudsen says, Prince appears to be intent on killing folk. I don't know why I censored that. Black people and propagating white people. Yeah, he does seem... There's some of that going on. He has a weird relationship with the military, like a real... I read a biography about him a little bit ago, and like he essentially started playing soldier when he was a kid. And credit to him. I forgot he joined... I knew he joined like the Navy, but I forgot he made it all the way through BUDS, you know? Like, well, I don't think they had that when he was a SEAL. But the point is, whatever their specific training was at the time he became a SEAL, he got through it. That's a massive accomplishment just by itself. I don't want to downplay having gotten through SEALs training, but he wasn't... At no point was it ever in this guy's vocabulary that he was serving anyone, that he had selfless goals. He wanted to play soldier, essentially. But he didn't want to risk his life, because very shortly after becoming a SEAL, he leaves. And the only real combat he was near was the stuff he assigned himself to be near, when it was like, oh, I want to be like those people that had a picnic and watched Civil War battles, but with, brown folks in Iraq. That was him. Groove Dragon. I arrived while you were leaving. Your music is better than you, but the music was really, really good. You're just really good. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'll take it. Tinkerbell, these incredibly rich dudes that have a bunch of white kids they think are gods. It's so weird. Yeah, they're just... So we're in mentally unwell times. And that's not even a jab at those who are mentally unwell. At this point, I think those who are diagnosed as mentally unwell are just those of us who had the courage to go in and talk about it with a professional. Because the behavior of our public figures, if humanity is able to survive, it will be because we got a hell of a lot more sane. I'm sorry to disparage the insane, but it's because sanity has regained control if we survive. And the sane will turn around and look at the behavior of all of us, every last one of us, and they will wonder what was happening. Was it what was happening? How do we make sure this never happens again? Because we almost lost 10,000 years of history in one generation of jackassery. Something's wrong. And I don't know what we should do, truth be told, but I know we got to do anything other than what we're currently doing. That's a good start. And what we've currently been doing is not talking to psychos. So let's try to talk to some psychos. Sorry, I'm already doing it. Let's try to talk to people who disagree with us, and we don't know why. Let's find out. The fairness doctrine. We should restore the fairness doctrine. Now, you were talking about cutting issues, really, really topical, great issues, really controversial stuff. I think, what are you going to get that's more controversial than a rule which was repealed in the FCC in the 1980s? That's a new thing. It only happened 45 years ago. President was already grown by that point. So here's the deal. I'm sorry, Rich PK just got my attention real good. Based on Prince? Eric Prince from Wristcut? All right. Series. That's who you're talking to. I'm doing a bad job for editing, Jake. He's going to have to cut this stuff out. I'm sorry. I wish I would have caught that. I didn't. Yes, Captain Homer. Very good. Started by Reagan, implemented by Clinton. Let's not wash the Democrats' hands of this, because the neoliberals are doom in a tie. So what is the fairness doctrine? It says essentially that when there is a controversial issue, that radio and television must cover it, and they must give reasonable opportunity to both sides of the issue to speak about it. It's pretty straightforward. It's a regulation that the FCC had to follow. Now, here's something interesting. If the fairness doctrine was reinstated today, it would not affect internet content one iota. And I'm okay with that. Here's why. Television stations cost tens of thousands of dollars a month in just electricity. Let me say that again so you appreciate what we're talking about. Tens of thousands of dollars. Some people's whole annual budget every month just in electricity, because they have to power towers, and those towers charge a hell of a lot of money. Those towers shoot out a signal across their broadcast area. And that is where their business comes from. That's how they can say, hey, local advertiser, come give me your money. But there's a finite amount of frequencies you can do that on, which means it's a public resource, that frequency. They're public airwaves. And so, once upon a time, public news sources were told to cover this stuff in a fair way, because it's everybody. So one side doesn't just get it. Well, Reagan took that away upon the advice of Roger Ailes, by the way. Reagan did away with the fairness doctrine, and Clinton carried out his schemes. We should return it. And the reason we should return it is for the very reason right-wingers state all the time. Fake news. It exists. It is mostly in the form of Fox, Newsmax, etc., etc. But let's not kid ourselves. Do you think CNN is honest? No. When MSNBC reports on Bernie Sanders, are they being honest with what they say? Lefties, are they being honest? Are they being honest? No. Now, that's because they're in the pockets of their advertisers. Sure. But their advertisers are also informed by what their advertisees are able to say. And if there's the fairness doctrine in place, suddenly these health insurance companies, suddenly these pill pushers who advertise on all these news networks now have to contend with stories that tell the opposite of the narrative they would like people believing. Because you'll have to have people on there that say, wait a minute, it would be cheaper for Americans every year to have universal health care than it would be for this insurance company crap. You have instantly a change in tone. Across television airwaves, where it is needed, where people are the most misinformed. Think about the people with the worst opinions you know and ask, where did they get those opinions? Even if it's just from the internet, it will be clips of people from television being reported on the internet. Television is the source of the rot. It's not the only place the rot is located, but it is what gives the rot legitimacy. It's what gives these clown narratives legitimacy. And if we restored the fairness doctrine, all of these major stations would utterly change their tune, and you would learn who's been lying to you and by how much. True, says Captain Homer. Still, bottom line, people need to question their own opinions constantly. Absolutely true. I don't necessarily disagree with this. Shade Dragon. The problem is that the fairness doctrine forces a fallacy, a false equivalency between views. When you equate reality with unreality, half of your content is still delusional, aka Delulu. Not incorrect, Shade Dragon, but what we have currently is no regulation whatsoever. I agree that the fairness doctrine was imperfect. I do think you can treat it dishonestly, but it uses specific language. It says good things like good faith or earnest effort, yada, yada, yada. If the fairness doctrine was in place and Fox News behaved the way you know Fox News is going to behave, they could then be sued. They could then be fined by the FCC. The FCC could say, for the last year, you've claimed to be in compliance with the fairness doctrine. We've just pulled up your discussion of, let's just use a common news item, Zoran Mandani. And for the Republican side, you asked Eric Adams. And for the Democrats side, you asked Governor Cuomo, and both of the former Governor Cuomo, and both of them are running against him. And Cuomo is now an independent, and you claimed that he was representing the left, and that is not a good faith argument. You have made a bad faith argument, and now you're getting fined. Will that happen? With Trump's FCC, no. If we had Biden in office, would he put pressure on the FCC to do that? No. We still need to get a progressive in office if we want things to go our way. But all of us, regardless of what side we're on, should want the regulations in place that say the way things are supposed to be. And then we can have the debate as to whether or not people are fulfilling the goals they're supposed to have. But first, we need to make it clear the way things are supposed to be. CNN is owned by Warner Brothers, says Captain Homer. Discovery, WBD. WBD is a global media company formed in 2022 from the merger of Discovery and Warner Media Major shareholders in Warner Brothers Discovery include financial institutions such as Vanguard, BlackRock, that's Eric Prince, and State Street, which hold a significant percentage of the company's shares. Good googly moogly. Also worth pointing out, the current president of CNN is a massive MAGA douche. Sorry, not all MAGA people are douches. I think it's a douchey person they elected. But this guy that I'm talking about specifically is a douche. It would be used against opponents only. You know, if you only assume that things will be handled dishonestly, and I understand why you would, because from what we've seen, the opposition is nothing but dishonesty. But if you only assume that the rules will be followed by people who are set on breaking them and that will never put anybody in office who is earnestly trying to fulfill the things we state, there is no point in talking about anything, doing anything, being here, putting food in your stomach, waking up in the morning. What are we talking about? That's the collapse of society. If you can't trust that the person on the opposite 90 degrees from you at a stoplight is going to stop when the light turns for them, you can't drive. So I hear what you're saying. How will the extremists behave? Probably not earnestly. Or probably not honestly, I should say. But it doesn't mean we write the rules with an expectation of failure. But I do think the rules should have consequences built in case people do behave the way you describe, and means of measuring it. If you're pointing out a problem with it, rather than say it won't work, I would ask you to come up with, or do say it won't work, that's fine. But I would encourage you to consider, what would it need to work? What would the consequences need to be? How could those consequences be measured? And who could we trust to measure them? I might not have the solution, but the problem is clear. Look at the media landscape after the Fairness Doctrine was revoked in whatever it was, early 90s, I think 94, 93. All right, let's just see. When was the Fairness Doctrine repealed? Core components in 87. Oh my gosh. This really was a long death. If you had to guess, when you think the last of the Fairness Doctrine rules were deleted, don't look it up yet. If you had to guess, when do you think? Put the year in the chat. I just looked it up. I'll give you a hint. 2 major rules lasted until the, oh, thank you, Foxy. 2 major rules lasted until the year 2000. But that's not when the very last ones were repealed. That's closer, shockingly. 2011. 2011. The very last rules from the Fairness Doctrine were taken off the books. Wild times we're living in. By the way, who was in office when that happened? Neoliberals, folks, they are not your friends. So here's the deal. I think we ought to have the Fairness Doctrine back. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think we ought to have the Fairness Doctrine back. And if not that specifically, yeah, you know what? That we should have it back for TV. Absolutely. I think as commenters were pointing out, that people will approach dishonestly. I think we should strengthen the fairness doctrine by putting in enforcement mechanisms and mandatory minimum fines based upon audience size. So if you have 1 million or more people viewing your shows on a weekly basis, let's say, I think you should have a mandatory minimum fine of, let's say, $10 million for violating the fairness doctrine. Yeah, you should. It should be a quick way to go out of business, so that if you're even risking it, you are potentially fucking your business to death. And I'd also like to see a version of this for the internet. I would like to see some manner of fairness doctrine that applies to streamers of a certain size. I think there should be one set of rules that are very light for people up to 50,000 subscribers, let's say, or however you think would be most fair to judge it. Let's say regularly achieves, let's just say 50,000 subscribers, because every platform is different. But let's say regularly achieves, God, I'm in this loop, 1 million views a week. There we go. 1 million views a week. Up to that, you've got one set of rules. If you no, that's a lot. 500,000. Fuck it, we're sticking with the subscribers because that's all I know. I'm small time. If you have up to 50,000 subscribers, one set of rules. They're very light. If you have up to 100,000 subscribers, you're treated more like a local TV station. You've got another set of rules, and they are lighter than the big boys, but they're more serious now. And now you are more liable for if you lie, if you behave irresponsibly in front of a crowd of 100,000 people. You see the difference. It's one thing to shout fire in your living room. It's another thing to shout fire in a car with a bunch of your friends in it. And it's a different thing to shout fire in a grocery store. And then if you have 1 million plus subscribers, if you are the type of business who is out there hiring people that you aren't personally friends with, you've got an editor you've never met, but they edit your stuff for you, that person should have strict rules, because at that point they are required to know better. Great question from Foxy. Who will police this? First off, I don't truly know, but I could offer suggestions. The FCC, for one. I know they haven't traditionally covered streamers, but perhaps the time is here. You could make it simply whoever would be in charge of arresting people that shout terroristic threats, although this is really more of a financial thing. I would stick with the FCC, frankly. Whoever does broadcast regulations. This is broadcasting. It's cheaper, but, you know, it's broadcasting. So I think we should have a version of that. Who would enforce it? We can name the group. But people that don't have pistols, because pistols aren't necessary for this. Pencil pushers. Don't I fit that profile? I don't know which profile. I'm sorry. How many subscribers do you have? Over 50,000? Then yes, you would be subject to this. Yeah, this is a good point. It should be a noticeable percentage of revenue so it does not become a simple cost of doing business. Yeah. I think punishments should scale with income. Financial punishments should scale with income. Absolutely. Who owns the FCC? Who owns the supremacist court? Are you suggesting then that we make no laws because we have people running the courts right now that can't enforce those laws? I mean, if you're suggesting that we first deal with the courts and replace the people who are in them, who are corrupt, I'm with you. Yeah, that's probably a good way to go, because otherwise, you know, these laws will eventually not have teeth. But if you're suggesting that we do nothing, like, oh, well, listen, I hear what you're saying, but Who owns the supremacist court? Hey, who makes the laws? Not us, which means we have to surrender. Yeah, gang, we did it. We did it. We found a way to do nothing. Oh, I was so concerned. I was concerned that what would happen is, we'd come up with a plan. We'd have a goal. We'd try to get people in office that were trying to, implement that plan and build a better future. And we might even use the plan that we came up with to talk to people who might want a better America and then get people in office who would fulfill that plan. But we dodged that bullet because bad people we don't like are in office. So we don't have to do anything. Almost had to work. Oh, thank God. You see what I mean? I get what you're saying. There's corrupt people in office right now. There's bad people there, and there's bad people in the courts, and there's a lot of work to do. And truthfully, because I get that you understand what's happening, we might not see this stuff in our lifetimes. I get it. But what is the point you're making when you say this? Is it to do nothing? Who does that help? The people who are already in office. That's what helps. If we sit down and do nothing, if we consider it a valid thing to say, well, the people who are in charge right now won't do it, then you've missed the point of talking about things we could do differently, because we need different people in office. You are right. The people who are there right now won't do it. But the follow-up question to ask yourself is not, should we want this thing done at all? The follow-up question should be, who do we need in office instead of these bums? And I bet you have some good suggestions for that. In Delaware, says Captain Homer, a corporate law committee vets all corporate law before it can be introduced to the legislation. Now that is an interesting idea. Most understand where we are then. Yeah. We're not in a good place. I mean, you are being realistic when you ask these questions. I'm busting your chops because the chops need to be busted. We do need to look at this differently. But I don't want to make it seem like you've assessed this incorrectly. No, you basically, that's it. We could pass all these laws if we passed all these laws tomorrow, it wouldn't do anything until we got the people in office who would be willing to pass them in the first place. Obviously, the people in office right now won't pass these laws, but if they were passed, they wouldn't enforce these laws. You are correct. In Delaware, a corporate law committee vets all corporate law before it can be introduced to the legislation. That is something we should be doing. I like that a lot. It's been that way. All right, that's the way it is and has been for a long time in Delaware. Man, I got to see how well that can be copied over to Michigan. Because I'm talking with a Michigan politician. Don't get excited. It's not the one I talked to before. I'm talking to a Michigan politician you've probably never heard of, and I might ask them that. Well, we went fishing today, and we didn't even catch a boot. I'm not sure how to answer this. I believe somebody with a law degree should write law. I don't care if they've previously had experience writing law, or no, if they've previously had experience in the field they are writing law for. I don't think that's all important. I think they should understand what they're doing, certainly, but I don't care for the intentions. I don't think people in charge of regulating an industry should also be able to go in and out of that industry. So let me put it like this. I don't think a former corporate lawyer should necessarily be banned from being writing the laws that govern corporations. But what you point out does need to be addressed. So if you do one thing, you should not be able to do the other for a mandatory minimum amount of time. I would say 10 years. So if you have written a law that governs corporations, it should be illegal for you to then turn around and be a lawyer for any corporation for at least a decade, and vice versa. You cannot write a new regulation for the business you were just in 5 minutes ago. That was an attempt at a short answer, and it was not short. Army of Futsack says, when law is written, it has to be stringent and not open to interpretation, so it cannot be misused. I wholeheartedly agree. And consequences for violating it must be written into the law. That is not how we function these days. That is not necessarily something that is done. But I think that the consequences are what make it a law as opposed to somebody's opinion. Pinkerbell says, this all falls under the anti-corruption thing I was talking about. All right. You know, one day, your old pal Jake will be good at what he does for a living. Today's not that day, though. Shade Dragon says, Canada has the extremely specific laws approach. It has good points and bad points. Yeah, to play devil's advocate here, I'll pretend to be Alex for a second. The bad points of an extremely specific law is that people can get around the intent of the law then by following the letter or simply avoiding the letter. So this is not a real thing, I'm just making it up. If you were to say, cars must come to a complete stop at all octagonal red stop signs. And then a car drives straight through a stop sign, police officer pulls them over, writes a ticket, here's your ticket. And then they go to court and they say, well, listen, I took a picture of that stop sign. As you can see, the paint on it has faded. It is an octagonal pink stop sign. And I don't think you or anybody else can deny the truth of it, that it is pink. In fact, I got this expert because I'm a rich person and a douchebag, and I just don't want the points on my ticket. So I hired an expert from Home Depot to come mix me a gallon of the paint from a paint chip that I took off of the stop sign, and then name the color. And they gave me these swatches all in the pink range. That, ladies and gentlemen of the court, is a pink stop sign. And the law says that I must stop for all octagonal red stop signs. So show me the red stop sign and I'll take the ticket. That is how you can get around that kind of stuff with two specifically written laws. One way you can get around the getting around is to write the law broadly as you intend, and then write the specific example that you're talking about, that you think is the main crux of things. But you're right. There is no version of this that is perfect. Because if you solve one problem, you create another. And at some point, you just have to accept that this will have to be decided in courts, decided in practice. We'll have to see what people actually do when confronted with these laws on the books and adjust accordingly. Pink stop signs would be lit. Would be lit. Some people would certainly enjoy them. I would as well. I enjoy pink from time to time. Defacing public property. That's the issue. Some of it belongs on the malicious compliance subreddit. Absolutely. Corruption writes most of the laws, says Captain Homer, for a very long time. And the problem includes implementation, enforcement, and education. So well put, Captain Homer. Yes. Yeah. That's it. They're not only writing laws that are designed to benefit them, the Epstein class, more than us, normal folks, but they're also designing the laws and the law enforcement in such a way that the Epstein class has an easier time breaking them and getting away with breaking them, and you and I do not. That is an intentional thing that has been happening for all of our lives. Whew. Yeah, in capitalism, everything is allowed unless specifically prohibited or unless it gets in the way of what a capitalist is up to. That's what I would say. Shade Dragon, is the call in every Sunday evening? You know what? The call in show is just going to keep going at random times with me at random states of intoxication for the foreseeable future. I'm doing it randomly. Really. If there's a time specifically that you'd like me to do it, effing just hit me up on Discord. In fact, all of you. If y'all are bored and you want there to be a call-in show and you've got the Discord, shoot me a message. I don't think anybody here, maybe not Captain Homer, maybe not Jet, but I think everybody else is a friend with me on Discord at least. Yeah, Foxy, for a while, the only way I could communicate was when we had that chat and Gmail. And now I don't even remember how to get to the chat. I'm basically a slave to habit. If the tab is open on my computer, I can be relied upon to respond. If you'd like me to do another stream like this and you're bored, just hit me up on Discord and say, hey, do the thing. You work on the internet, sir. Yeah, I just want to keep fishing until I'll let y'all in on the plans here. Ooh, good man. This is perfect for when I say the other thing. Shade Dragon, okay, thank you. There's a person who keeps showing up on GNN. I'll try to funnel here. I'm not sure what his deal is, but he's a contrarian for sure. That's perfect. That's wonderful. Yes, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. If you want it expressed in business terms, I'm hoping that I can get some clips that are worth clipping. It's not just me talking, but somebody else talking. It's worth putting out there. Where we learn something, where I feel like I learned something, and hopefully other people feel like they learned something. But there's a sickness. Let's just be real for a moment. There's a sickness in this country. A bunch of people were just really excited by the fact that somebody got shot publicly. And a bunch of people were very, very excited by the idea that they might be able to take violent revenge against the perceived group that did them wrong. And then, as it came out that no, this person wasn't part of that group, there was no reflection whatsoever by the people that were trying to do essentially a pogrom. They were getting ready for mass violence. No reflection. There was no discussion of the fact that U.S. political figures have been assassinated by right-wing extremists. There was a guy that dressed up like a cop and went to their home and shot him. There is a sickness that has taken hold, taken root in the hearts of the American conservative. And I don't think we're going to see eye to eye with these folks on a lot. But we have not just an obligation anymore. We have a need for the longevity of both groups, conservative and person with a conscience, to figure out what's wrong and to correct it. And even if we cannot convince them to support the political things that we're all about, because we have, we have these conclusions at the end of literal years of discussion in some cases. But even if we can't get them to vote for the things that we want them to vote for, at a minimum, we must drag them into reality with the rest of us. And we need to be willing to accept that we might not be in reality. We might be closer or farther away, but not in reality. And if you want a cold glass of water, leftists, here's something that Republicans said. Nay, not just Republicans. MAGA. Nay, not just MAGA. QAnon said. And they were right, and we were wrong. There is a conspiracy of kitty diddlers running the U.S. government. Boy, on the list of things I would have said I never would have to issue a correction on, that one might have been at the top. But no matter how you put it, doesn't matter if they're actual kitty diddlers or just people that were covering up their tax evasion by hiding the kitty diddling of their tax evasion guy, Trump, Biden, and then Trump again, all had access to the complete list of the Epstein files. Nothing was done. Nothing was done. Nobody who was a client of his ever saw a courtroom. I'm not saying they're right about everything. I'm not even saying they're mostly right about this. In fact, I'm still of the belief they're mostly wrong. But we cannot deny that our reality might also be incorrect. And that is a strength. Admitting that is a strength. One that you and I should embrace. We might not be wrong, and we might not be right. We might not be correct about the way the world is. And if you can acknowledge that you might not be, then you can find the truth together. And in the process of finding the truth, maybe build some bridges. But somebody is very unlikely to listen to the opinion of someone who says they're right all the time. Nobody wants to be lectured to. And by the way, that's a good instinct to have. Because if somebody thinks they're right all the time, that means they don't know when they've been wrong. Because nobody actually is right all the time. So embrace that we might not be correct. And we have got to show people who we think are wildly, dangerously, perhaps even suicidally incorrect, the error of their ways. And together, we might just do better. I've just spilled a mango beverage all over my feet and computer. I'll see you next time, assuming I still have the ability to stream. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. And I've left the thing up. My name's Jake.